Hello all, welcome to this YouTube channel. In this tutorial, we are going to learn about installing Anaconda. It is a distribution of the Python and R programming languages for scientific computing. In this tutorial series, we will be using this particular platform Anaconda for all our coding purposes with respect to Python. To install Anaconda, just type Anaconda in the Google search engine, and the very first link that you come across, which is anaconda.com, the world's most popular data science platform, click on this link. It will take you to this page wherein in the products section, we have various options in front of us: individual edition, commercial, team, enterprise, and professional services. Now, since we are going to do it just for our learning purposes, we would be selecting individual edition here. So click on individual edition, just scroll down and click on the download button. Once you click on the download button, it will ask for options in case your machine is a Windows operating system or a Mac or a Linux. My case, I'm using Windows and my system is a 64-bit graphical installer. This is what I should be installing on my laptop. In case you're not sure whether your system is a 64-bit machine or a 32-bit machine, all that you need to do is go to your desktop and click on this PC icon, right click and click on properties. In the system type, it will be mentioned whether it's a 64-bit machine or a 32-bit. So in my case, it's a 64-bit operating system. So I would now be clicking on the 64-bit graphical installer. And once I click on the 64-bit installer, it will start downloading. Maybe a couple of minutes, and also depending upon your internet speed as well. Once the download is complete, click on this up arrow, open, and click the next button. Agree to the licensing agreement. I'll keep this as it is and click on the next button. I would keep it to default. And please remember, it requires a heavy 2.7 GB space. If you're doing it for the first time, you can keep it as is and then click on the next button, which is the install button. The installation will then start. Now, this could also take some time because we are installing a 3 GB file. Once the installation is complete, click on the next button and it will ask you if you want to install PyCharm, but you can continue next. I don't want Anaconda individual edition tutorial getting started with Anaconda. So unclick them and click on finish button. There you are. So with that, we have completed the installation of Anaconda. Now in the next step, we'll open our Jupyter notebook. Before we open the Jupyter notebook, let's try to understand what exactly is it. It's an open source web application that allows you to create and share documents that contain live code, equations, visualizations, and narrative text. Phew. If you're confused, don't worry, you're not alone. I myself was a little confused when I started off working on Jupyter Notebook a few years back. Just to make things simple, it is more like an IDE, integrated development environment, which is used for our coding purposes. It provides you with an easy to use interactive data science environment across many programming languages, R and Python in this case, that doesn't only work as an IDE but also as a presentation or education tool. It's perfect for those who are just starting out with data science, right? So those who are starting off with data science, Jupyter Notebook is very user friendly. So that is why I'm recommending to get started with Jupyter Notebook. Of course, we can gradually move to some other IDEs that are also available for running our Python and R code, which I'll be gradually explaining about in the future tutorials. So for now, to get started with Jupyter Notebook, what we have to do is go to a Windows search menu, click on the search button and type Anaconda prompt. and click on this Anaconda prompt app, and we get to see this prompt here. Here we just need to type Jupyter Notebook. Once you type Jupyter Notebook with a space in between, click the enter button, and the Jupyter Notebook opens as a web browser. Though it is opening as a web browser, but all these things are actually local to your machine, local to your desktop. Don't worry about the layout and the looks and feel of this Jupyter Notebook. I will be explaining everything that is required for us to understand and execute, run our code on this particular IDE. Right now, let's see if the Jupyter Notebook is working fine. Are we able to execute our Python code? To do that, we click on this new button and you have a drop down here. Here we see Python 3. Unfortunately, we cannot see R here, but I shall come to that in just a moment. So at least for now, let's see if Python is working. Are we able to run Python code here? So click on this Python 3 and you have another web browser opened. But remember, you should not be closing this interface. Once you close this, then our Jupyter notebooks will not be executable. So we need to ensure that this remains open. Coming back to this Jupyter notebook, let's see if Python is working or not. Just type something like a simple addition, 2 plus 3, and click the run button. And it's giving us a proper output as 5, which means Python is working fine. Again, don't worry about all these things, whatever I have mentioned. This is, of course, plain arithmetic. Now, if we also want to run R here on our Jupyter notebook, now Jupyter stands for Julia, which is another programming language, Python, and R. But right now we can only see Python here. If you find this Jupyter notebook useful, which you will eventually once you start working more and more on Jupyter notebook, you can also use this Jupyter notebook for writing R code. But for that, we need to do or maybe take a few more steps to ensure we are able to run R as well. So for us to have R also functioning in Jupyter notebook, what we have to do is, again, click on this Windows search button, type Anaconda Navigator, and click on Anaconda Navigator. Then we'll have this Anaconda Navigator opening up. So once Anaconda Navigator opens, what we have to do is we go to environments. Now, before going to environments, let me just explain about what we have here. RStudio is one IDE where we can do our R coding. Jupyter Lab, Jupyter Notebook, which is where we are right now. Spider is one IDE where we can run our Python code. PyCharm, as the name suggests, for Python, mainly for Python. To run our code, what we have to do is we have to go to environments, click on the create icon right at the bottom. Now in this new environment name, let's write R programming and click on R. Python is already selected, so let's select R as well and then click on the create button. So once we do that, we have this R programming getting created here. Now this is just getting created, this particular environment. Once this environment gets created, we can start using R programming on Jupyter. Once all these packages are installed, our R programming environment is now ready. In my case, I can see 243 packages available. So if I just keep scrolling down, there are quite a few packages that it has got installed. And it did take some time for me. It took around 4 to 5 minutes. So in your case, if it is taking some time, have some patience. Also, whatever nomenclature I have given here, R programming, it does not have to be exactly this nomenclature. You can even write anything else. You can just write R or programming or coding or any name that suits you. And once this environment is ready, once you have this kind of message displayed, click on this button and now you have an option, open with Jupyter Notebook. Once you select this option, again, it will open up another Jupyter notebook. But now, once you click on this new button, there you are. You can now see R as well as Python 3. So earlier when we created without R, we could only see Python 3. But after we created this new environment through Anaconda Navigator, now we can also see R as an option here. Now, if I select R here, again, another web browser opens up. But here, if you see, it has got this logo of R. If you go to the previous one, you can see the logo of Python. So here, you can execute the Python codes. And here, you can execute the R code. So if I have to execute the R code again, let me just type the same arithmetic here, 2 plus 3, and click on the run button. It's giving me 5 as the output finally, which means my R is also working on Jupyter Notebook. That's a first success step. Now we have the same platform, which is Jupyter Notebook, where we can use both R and Python codes. But I would also like to show you another IDE which can be used for R, which I feel is more intuitive and more easy and exciting to learn R in particular. So let me take you through the installation process of RStudio, which is another IDE that we'll be using for running our R code. Before we install RStudio, we need to install R programming. And since I'm using a Windows machine, I would be clicking on this link. In case of Mac or Linux users, if you're finding any problems or difficulty in installing R, please post your comments so that I can guide you accordingly. Okay, let's continue. Click on this particular link. It will take us to this CRAN website where we can install R. So click on this link, download R, which is the latest version here for Windows. So once we click that, the installation, the downloading of R programming will start. It is going to take a few seconds for us. So once it is done, we can then install RStudio on a machine. And RStudio is a really wonderful IDE, and I'm sure you're all going to fall in love with that IDE. All right, now let's open this up since the download is complete. Just continue clicking on the default options that are coming in front of you. If you're running on a 64-bit machine, you can unclick the 32-bit files, or you can even keep that clicked. Click on the next button. Accept defaults. Next. Next. So now that it's done, click on the finish button and we are done with installing or setting up R for Windows. To install RStudio on your local machine, just type RStudio install and click this link, download the RStudio IDE. So once we click this link and scroll down, we have this option RStudio Desktop, RStudio Desktop Pro, the Server and the Server Pro, out of which 2 of them are free version and the other ones are commercial license version. We would go for RStudio Desktop, which is a free version, free license, open source one. And we just need to click on this download button. Now, once I click on this download button, since it identifies that I'm working on the Windows machine, it asks to click on the download RStudio for Windows button, and it will have a capacity or space of 171.6 that would be required. So click on this icon if you're running on Windows, and similarly if you're running on Mac or Linux, you would be getting similar options on your screen. Alright, once the download is complete, click on the open button, click on next. Now it's requiring 1 GB space. Click on next, next, and the installation now starts. This again could take some time. So this first tutorial on installation of R and Python is slightly lengthy because it's taking some time for installation purposes, but otherwise, once we have all these packages installed, once we have the tool ready, we should be good to go with coding from our next tutorial. But yeah, once this installation is complete, I shall also test if my RStudio is working fine. Fortunately for me, it has got completed now. Click on the finish button. And now just to see if my RStudio is working fine, I just have to go again back to the search command on Windows and type RStudio. Click on RStudio app. This will open up RStudio, and this is how the layout looks like of RStudio. We can change the layout and the design and the font size and the background color, everything. We shall do that in our next tutorial, wherein we'll be starting with the basics of R. But for now, let's just see if our RStudio is working fine. So once again, I'll be just typing the same code, 2 plus 3, the same arithmetic numbers which I entered on Jupyter Notebook. It is giving me the right result, 5. So RStudio is working fine. I hope I have been able to explain how to install R and Python on our machine. If you have any doubts or queries or questions or suggestions, please post them on the comment section. I would love to hear them from you so that I can improve on the upcoming tutorials. Thank you very much.